I think you better look for a job in a bakery or car wash, boy. Here there is no salary for us like you." The cruel laugh of Supervisor Brad Morrison echoed through the financial Manhattan office, while pointing to Miguel Santos, who nervously holding a folder with his resume. Wall Street's most exclusive bank branch was conducting interviews to senior manager, and Miguel, 34, was the last candidate of the day. His calloused hands of years working as a nightly janitor contrast with the impeccable environment of marble and glass. What no one there knew was that those same hands had signed multi-millionaire contracts just a week earlier. "Look, guys," Brad shouted to the other employees, lifting Miguel's resume like garbage. "Our friend here thought he could be a manager just because he has a diploma from a university I have never heard of." Sarah Mitchell, the 45-year-old human resources director, was barely able to disguise her evil smile. She had built her career being ruthless with candidates who did not fit the company's ideal profile. For her, people like Miguel were invaders trying to occupy spaces that did not belong to them. "How pathetic," murmured Jennifer Walsh, the 38-year-old regional manager, adjusting her Hermes bag while watching the scene. "Some just don't know where they belong, right?" Miguel never imagined that he would get there that way. Son of Philippine immigrants who worked as cleaning in corporate buildings, they had won 3 different diplomas: administration, economy, and finance, while clearing offices at dawn to pay for studies. "But today I was there for a very different reason than those people imagined." Quick flashback has gone through his mind. 3 months ago, sitting in the meeting room of the Financial Group Administrative Board that secretly controlled more than 20 banks, including the financial Manhattan. At that time, he had received worrying reports on systematic discrimination in branches. It was time for a personal investigation. "Sorry to interrupt your theater," said Jennifer, checking the diamond wristwatch, "but some of us have important clients that really matter. Can we end it right away?" Marcus Thompson, the 42-year-old credit manager, approached an expression of false concern. "You know, friend, you may have been confused. This is not a common job agency. Here we deal with family fortunes of generations." An assistant approached with a hurry, mashed form. "Senor Santos, please fill this here quickly. It's just to appear in our files that we consider your candidacy." The role was clearly a generic rejection document, already half filled before the interview began. Brad leaned over the table, his rancid coffee breath invading Miguel's personal space. "Among us, man, did you really think a company of this caliber would hire someone like you? Look where you are and look where we are." Rebecca Collins, the VIP service supervisor, sighed theatrically. "Did you see that he came from public transportation? Probably not even his own car. How would we explain this to our premium customers?" Murmurs traveled the office. The other employees observed humiliation as if it were free entertainment. It was obvious that Miguel was there just to fill a quota of diversity so that the company could mark a box in its corporate reports. "Maybe you should try something more suitable for your profile," Sarah suggested with false kindness. "I know there are night safety vacancies in some downtown buildings. I can indicate some companies that hire people like you." David Park, another candidate waiting at the reception, shook his head with disdain. "It's embarrassing to witness this. Some people really don't know their limits." The atmosphere became heavy with muffled laughs and malicious whispers. Miguel observed every face, every expression of superiority, every gesture of contempt. Mentally, it took notes that would be very useful in the coming weeks. "Any problem?" Brad asked, noticing that Miguel had not signed the form immediately. "Or do you need anyone to read to you? There are a few difficult words there." Ashley Rodriguez, the receptionist, whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I bet you don't even know how to use executive elevators. It must be lost since it arrived here." It was at this moment that something in Miguel's gaze changed completely. It was not anger, humiliation, or despair. It was the dangerous serenity of someone who had just collected all the evidence he needed to execute a plan that was in preparation months. "No problem," Miguel answered with a calm that made some employees rummaged curiously in your chairs. "Actually, I think I'll wait here a little more. I have time." Tom Wilson, the security guard, stepped forward. "Sir, if you can't complete the documentation, you may be better to come back another day. It's causing an inconvenience to other candidates." While everyone mocking the insistence of that inappropriate candidate, none of them realized that Miguel had discreetly activated the recorder on his cell phone. Each cruel word, every laugh of contempt, each discriminatory comment was being documented with digital accuracy. "Do you know what bothers me most?" said Jennifer, addressing his colleagues as if Miguel was not present. "It is this stubbornness. As if persistence could compensate for the lack of proper qualifications. What these people did not know was that every act of cruelty was signing their own letter of resignation. There, in the face of all the eyes of contempt, Miguel remained firm, as those who keep too powerful a secret to be revealed before the right time. If this story of prejudice disguised as professionalism has touched you, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because what would happen in the next few hours would turn that humiliation into the biggest mistake these employees could make in their entire careers. To understand why Miguel remained so calm in the face of that humiliation, we need to go back 4 years in time. Graduated in economics from Columbia University with maximum honors, he had started his career working 18 hours a day at a small financial advice, proving that intelligence and determination could overcome any prejudice. Brad Morrison, in the meantime, had inherited his position through family connections. His father was a minority partner of an investment company that had contracts with Manhattan Financial. Brad had never worked elsewhere, had never faced real adversities, and considered his superiority to be natural and unquestionable. "Guys, look at that," Brad shouted, pulling Miguel's resume of the table and starting to read it theatrically. He worked as a nightly janitor to pay for college. What an inspiring. His voice was loaded with poisonous sarcasm. Sarah Mitchell laughed loudly, clapping her hands slowly. "Oh, how beautiful. A true story of American overcoming. Too bad we deal with reality, not fairy tales." Jennifer Walsh approached, her jumps echoing on the marble floor. "Do you know what bothers me most? It's this stubbornness, as if effort could compensate for the lack of social adequacy." What they didn't know was that Miguel had grown by observing exactly that kind of behavior. His parents worked as cleaning in similar corporate buildings, and during childhood, he often accompanied them after classes. Via executives treating cleaning employees such as invisible furniture, making cruel comments, demonstrating the type of arrogance that now witnessed in the first person, a group of employees formed around the table, turning the situation into a cruel spectacle. For them, Miguel was free entertainment, a break in the monotony of their privileged routines. "Let me guess." Marcus Thompson joined the circle, crossing his arms. "You probably think that working hard is enough, right? That the world owes something to you just because you tried it?" Miguel observed every face, every expression of superiority disguised as professionalism. What they didn't know was that each word was being recorded, every gesture documented for a much larger purpose than any of them could imagine. Rebecca Collins, realizing that Miguel did not respond to insults, decided to intensify cruelty. "Do you at least know how to serve our premium customers? Because it's not a place for those who need to search Google how to use a dessert fork." The laughs got higher, higher. David Park, the other candidate, whispered to Ashley at the reception, "It's embarrassing to be in the same environment as that. How to explain to my wife I participated in a selection with, well, you understand." Kevin Roberts, the senior financial analyst, decided to contribute to his own poison dose. "Do you know what's funny? They really believe they can mix with us, as if it wasn't obvious the class difference from the first moment." "The problem," said Jennifer, addressing his colleagues as if Miguel was an object of study, "is that some people confuse opportunity with right. They think that having a diploma can mix anywhere." Brad took an expensive pen and started scribbling Miguel's resume. "I will do you a favor, boy. I have some contacts in cleaning companies that look for qualified staff. I can indicate you for a night supervisor vacancy. It would be more appropriate." Patricia Evans, the supervisor of accounts co-reparative, laughed at his own joke. "Night supervisor? I think we're being too optimistic. Maybe starting as a common janitor is more realistic." The humiliation was being orchestrated systematically, each employee contributing to their dose of calculated cruelty. For them, Miguel represented everything they despised, someone from out trying to enter their exclusive circle. Sarah approached with an expression of false maternal concern. "Look, dear, I'm going to be honest with you. This environment is not for people like you. You feel displaced, inappropriate. You better look for something at your level." Tom Wilson, the security guard, watched everything with increasing discomfort. He himself had come with humble origin and recognized something familiar in Miguel's worthy stance, but his job depended on not questioning the superiors. "Do you know what hilarious is?" Marcus continued his cruel performance. "He probably rehearsed this in the mirror, believing that he could impress us, as if we couldn't see from afar who really belongs here." Daniel Foster, the investment manager, shook his head with theatrical disdain. "It's always the same. They come here thinking they deserve to be on the same level as people who built legitimate careers." Miguel remained motionless, but his eyes recorded every detail. The way Brad scribbled obscene designs on his resume, as Sarah was discreetly filmed with her cell phone to show her friends later. How Jennifer checked social networks while talking about professionalism. "Do you at least have a bank account?" Rebecca asked with disdain. "Because our customers often have assets at the home of the millions. It may be difficult to understand their needs when living with a minimum wage." Linda Chen, VIP service coordinator, whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Imagine the face of our customers if they saw someone like this trying to manage their accounts. It would be the end of our reputation. The psychological torture session was reaching the climax. Brad got up and walked to Miguel, stopping a few inches away. Last chance, friend. You sign this paper confirming that you understand that it is not suitable for this position, or we will have to clarify the situation better. Ryan Martinez, the credit analyst, laughed softly. I bet he doesn't even know what he means suitable. Maybe he needs to draw. For a moment, silence has taken over the environment. Everyone was waiting to see if they had finally broken the spirit of that bold intruder. Miguel looked around once again, memorizing every face, every expression of cruelty disguised as superiority. It was then that something unexpected happened. Miguel smiled. It was not a smile of surrender or nervousness, but something much more disturbing. The serene smile of someone who had just watched enemies dig their own graves without realizing it. Every cruel word they had uttered, every gesture of contempt they had displayed, every mean laugh they had shared was being meticulously documented not only by the recorder on his cell phone, but for something much more powerful they would soon discover. What those privileged people did not know was that every act of contempt was writing their own sentence of defeat, a sentence that would be performed with the same coldness they had shown at that time of cruel fun. What Brad Morrison and his colleagues didn't know was that Miguel had planned that visit with the military accuracy of a strategic operation. 3 months earlier, he had received the quarterly report that made him absolutely furious. The financial Manhattan led the statistics of discrimination in hiring among all the branches of the financial group he controlled. While the employees continued their mockery, Miguel discreetly verified if the recorder on his cell phone was working perfectly. Each cruel word, every gesture of contempt was being filed not only as evidence but as ammunition for what would come next. Do you know what is more pathetic? Brad continued his performance, now clearly having fun with the audience. It's just that he really believed he could mix with us, as if it weren't obvious since the first second he doesn't belong here. Sarah Mitchell took her cell phone and started filming discreetly. Girls, you won't believe what is happening here in the office, whispered to the camera, thinking that Miguel did not notice. Miguel, however, had already identified at least 6 employees documenting his humiliation from different angles. Perfect. The more evidence, the better the demonstration it had prepared for them. Jennifer Walsh decided to raise the level of cruelty. Do you know what we should do? Post this on our social networks. Show everyone how some people really don't know their limits. It was in this moment what something interesting has happened. Tom Wilson, the security guard, stepped forward. Excuse me, Mr. Morrison, but maybe it is better to end this situation. You are filming without permission, and this can lead to legal problems. Brad laughed loudly. Tom, are you concerned about the legal rights of this candidate? Relax, man. Who will believe him against all of us? Marcus Thompson joined the group, bringing Patricia Evans and Kevin Roberts with him. Look, guys, I think we're being too kind. In fact, we should charge him for the educational experience she is receiving. Miguel observed each movement, every expression, every comment being recorded not only by its recorder, but by the cameras of the employees who happily documented their own professional destruction. What none of them knew was that Miguel had spent the last 2 months creating false profiles on social networks, infiltrating the social circles of those same employees, collecting information about their personal lives, their publicly expressed prejudices, their family and professional connections. Do you know what bothers me most? Said Rebecca Collins, approaching with an expression of false concern. It's just that he will probably get out of here and tell everyone that has been discriminated against, as if it weren't a simple question of qualification. Daniel Foster shook his head, agreeing. It's always the same story. When they can't compete at the same level, they appeal to victimization. Meanwhile, Miguel mentally reviewed the list of contacts he had prepared: journalists specializing in labor issues, discrimination lawyers, digital influencers focused on social justice, and especially the financial Manhattan premium clients who had strict ethical principles. Linda Chen, who had remained silent so far, decided to contribute. Do you know what is funny? He probably practiced this presentation for weeks, imagining that he could impress us. Ryan Martinez laughed at his own joke. Imagine his family asking how the interview went. It was very well. They laughed a lot. Miguel needed just a few more minutes to complete his evidence collection. Each insult, every demonstration of prejudice, each proof of systematic discrimination was being carefully archived. That's when Ashley Rodriguez, the receptionist, made the fatal error. Guys, did you see that he arrived here by bus? I saw the window. Probably there is not even an account on the bank. This specific information about his arrival revealed that they had been watching and judging since before the interview began. It was exactly the kind of evidence of premeditated discrimination that Miguel needed. Brad Morrison, realizing that Miguel was still too calm for his taste, decided to further intensify the pressure. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'll call some of my contacts on other banks, just to make sure they know what kind of candidate is circulating around. The comment was the point of turning. Miguel finally had evidence not only of discrimination, but of deliberate professional sabotage, a federal crime with severe consequences. Sarah Mitchell, drunk on the power of the moment, made the final move without knowing that she was digging her own professional grave. In fact, I will do better than that. I will post on my social networks a reflection on professional adequacy with some subtle photos of our interview today. Miguel smiled internally. Not only would there be evidence of discrimination being committed, but also of the deliberate intention to publicly expose a victim of prejudice. Each employee had just signed their own resignation. While everyone kept laughing at their own cruel jokes, Miguel discreetly checked his cell phone. 3 messages were already waiting for an answer. One of his civil rights expert lawyer, one from the corporate compliance department he had secretly contacted before the visit, and a third who would make everyone in that office deeply regret what they had just done. For a moment, when Miguel slightly lowered his head as if he was finally broken by constant pressure, everyone in the room smiled with cruel satisfaction, thinking he finally put that intruder in his proper place. But if any of them were enough observer, it would have noticed that it was not a defeat that shone in those low eyes. It was someone's intense concentration by sending messages that would completely change the course of that story. Gentlemen, I need to interrupt this interview. The firm voice echoed through the office entrance, making everyone turn toward the door. 3 men of suit entered, 2 lawyers and a private investigator carrying bulky folders. Brad Morrison felt a cold in the spine. Excuse me, but this is a private meeting. You can't simply... In fact, we can, the main lawyer, Dr. Richard Coleman, expert in civil rights, interrupted, especially when there is evidence of systematic discrimination being committed in real time. Miguel got up calmly, his posture changing completely. Nervousness had disappeared, replaced by a natural authority that made everyone in the office instinctively retreat. "Allow me to represent me," said Miguel, his voice now loaded with a confidence that froze the blood of the present. "Miguel Santos, CEO and the main shareholder of Apex Financial Group, the company that is the majority owner of Manhattan Financial." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah Mitchell dropped the phone, the sound of the glass shattering on the marble floor echoing through the environment. Brad Morrison went pale as paper, his wobbly legs forcing him to lean on the table. This is not possible," stammered Jennifer Walsh, his bag Hermes shaking in his hands. You were running for manager. In fact," Miguel continued with a smile that didn't come to the eye, "I was conducting a behavioral audit. In the last 3 months, we received 127 allegations of discrimination from this branch." Dr. Coleman opened one of the folders. "We have complete recordings here from the entire humiliation session that has just happened, as well as social networking screenshots where several present employees have expressed discriminatory opinions in recent months." Marcus Thompson tried to speak, but only a moan came out. Rebecca Collins had tears in her eyes, realizing that her career had just collapsed in a matter of minutes. Miguel turned on his cell phone in the office sound system. "I would like everyone to hear some excerpts from what was recorded today." Brad's cruel voice echoed by the environment. "Here there is no salary for us like you," followed by Sarah's mean laughs. "Maybe you should try something more suitable for your profile. People like you." Each employee who had participated in the humiliation heard his own words being reproduced. His expressions of cruel fun now turned into concrete evidence of discrimination. "Please," Sarah started crying. "I didn't know who you were. If I knew, never." "Exactly," Miguel interrupted her. "You didn't respect me when you thought I was just an ordinary candidate. Why should you believe it would respect me if I knew my position?" The private investigator approached more documents. "Mr. Santos, we also collect evidence of posts on social networks. Miss Mitchell posted on Instagram yesterday. Some do not know where they belong. Mr. Thompson tweeted, "Diversity has limits, right guys?" Patricia Evans, who had remained silent, tried to get out discreetly, but Dr. Coleman prevented her. "Mrs. Evans, the recording clearly shows her participation." "Night Supervisor, I think we're being too optimistic." Tom Wilson, the security guard, stepped forward. "Mr. Santos, I tried to intervene. He said the situation was getting problematic." Miguel nodded. "Tom, you have shown professionalism and will be the only one of this team that will keep your job. In fact, you will be promoted to security supervisor." Brad Morrison made a last desperate attempt. "Mr. Santos, this was a terrible misunderstanding. We can solve internally. There is no need to make this public." Miguel smiled coldly. "In fact, a statement has already been sent to all our customers, partners, and the specialized financial press." Jennifer Walsh collapsed in a chair. "My God, my reputation, My career. Your reputation was destroyed by your own actions, said Miguel. Every prejudiced comment, every cruel laugh, every moment of discrimination was your choice. Dr. Coleman presented the final documents. Deficiencies for just cause for all employees involved in discrimination, judicial process for collective moral damages, and immediate transfer of the management of this branch. Ashley Rodriguez, the receptionist, tried to justify herself, but I just made some silly comments. Comments that revealed their true character, Miguel answered, and now they cost not only their job but their professional reference. The office that minutes earlier was a place of cruel fun at the expense of an inappropriate candidate had now become a court where justice was executed with surgical precision. Miguel watched every desperate face, every panic expression, every pathetic excuse attempt. For years he had worked to build a financial empire based on merit and respect. Seeing employees of his own company acting so cruelty had motivated him to plan that operation on military care. From tomorrow, announced Miguel, this branch will be administered directly by me, focusing on hiring professionals who understand that competence has no color, origin, or social class. While the former employees were escorted out of the building, carrying their things in cardboard boxes, a new reality was established in that office where the prejudice was previously disguised as a corporate tradition. Each act of discrimination had been documented, every cruel word transformed into evidence, every moment of arrogance converted into a lesson that would echo throughout the financial industry as a reminder that true power does not come from where you were born, but what you build with your own hands. 6 months after which the financial press called the largest corporate discrimination scandal of the decade, the financial Manhattan had completely turned. Miguel Santos walked through the corridors of the renewed branch, observing various employees working in harmony, customers of all origins being treated with equal respect. The transformation had not just been cosmetic. Under Miguel's direct leadership, the branch had become the most lucrative of the entire network, proving that diversity was not only morally correct, but also financially intelligent. Tom Wilson, now General Security Supervisor, approached the monthly report. Mr. Santos, our customer satisfaction hit 98% this month, and we have a waiting list of professionals wanting to work here. Miguel smiled, remembering that terrible morning when Tom had been the only one to demonstrate basic decency. Merit recognized always generates results, Tom. Meanwhile, the consequences for former discriminators had been severe and permanent. Brad Morrison had tried to get a job on 6 different banks, but the scandal followed him like a shadow. He currently worked as a salesman in a used car store, his arrogance replaced by a humility forced by circumstances. Sarah Mitchell had lost not only her job, but also her husband, who divorced her after the discrimination videos became viral. His own embarrassed children had changed surnames and cut contact with her. Jennifer Walsh had tried to open his own consultancy, but no respectable client wanted to be associated with his name. She who had once despised inadequate people, now discovered in her own skin which meant being systematically rejected. The story had become a case of study in business schools, a perfect example of how prejudices are costly, not only to victims, but especially the perpetrators who underestimate the power of those who despise. Miguel had used his experience to create the Santos program, a national initiative that offered real career opportunities for people of various origins, always based on merit and potential, never on appearances or family connections. Dr. Coleman, who had become a personal friend as well as a lawyer, regularly visited the office. Miguel, you have transformed a personal injustice into systemic change. How many other companies have changed their practices after your case? 43 so far, Miguel replied, consulting a folder. And I get at least 5 calls a week from other discrimination victims asking for help. The old reception, where Ashley Rodriguez had once moved his bus arrival, now displaying a discreet but powerful sign. Here, the character of a person is not measured by his origin, but by his actions. Miguel had bought a simple house in the same neighborhood where he had grown, preferring to invest his resources in educational programs and opportunities for disadvantaged young people. His parents, now retired with dignity thanks to his son's success, often visited him in the office. Do you remember that day? He asked his mother during a visit, pointing to where he had been humiliated. When you came home, I said you had planted a seed. Miguel nodded, observing through the window the city that had witnessed his transformation of victim into a change agent. The best revenge is never to destroy who has harmed you, mother. It is to build something so big and significant that they realize how much they were wrong about who you really were. The former colleagues who had participated in the humiliation occasionally tried to contact, apologizing or job opportunities. Miguel always responded politely, but his professional doors remained closed for those who had shown a lack of character when it really mattered. The lesson had echoed far beyond the corporate world. Universities began to include the Santos case in business ethics curricula. Young professionals cited their history inspiration to never giving up on seemingly insurmountable obstacles. A year later, sitting in the same chair where one day had been treated as inappropriate, Miguel reflected on the extraordinary journey. It had proven that true power does not come from where you are born, but what you build with determination, intelligence, and unshakable integrity. The discrimination that should have destroyed him had become the driving force of a transformation that benefited thousands of people. Each cruel word had been converted into motivation, every gesture of contempt in fuel to build something larger than its oppressors could never imagine. He had learned that sweeter revenge is not to make his enemies suffer. It is to achieve such an extraordinary success that they spend the rest of their lives wondering how they were so blind, to the point of underestimating someone with so much potential. And have you ever faced situations where you were underestimated by its origin or appearance? Leave in the comments how it reacted and subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true greatness always finds its way, regardless of the obstacles imposed by those who fear. Recognize the value of those they consider different.